Welcome back. There is nothing more important to our lifestyle and our local economy than the health of our beaches, which is why the continuing battle over dredging at Big Pass to re-nourish Lido Beach continues to pit parts of our little piece of paradise against each other. There is continuing legal action and there is continuing concern whether the planned dredging could damage Siesta Key Beach, one of the biggest sources of revenue in our area. And joining us will be Michael Hardeness, a local business owner, and Alexandria Davis Shaw, Sarasota's city engineer. And our conversation will begin. Welcome back. We are talking about the ongoing battle over dredging Big Pass to re-nourish Lido Beach. And joining us for more are Michael Hardeness, a local business owner, and Alex Davis Shaw, Sarasota's city engineer. I want to welcome you both. And also, we'll say up in front, since there is litigation involved here, we got to stay away from that, because both parties are limited in what they could talk about. But let's just talk about the greater issue in terms of, Michael, you're worrying about your livelihood and the livelihood of other business owners around here. But obviously, we have a crisis in terms of another beach, which is really suffering the great effects of the weather over the last couple of years. So the question, Alex, is how do you balance both issues?
Well, one of the things that we've been doing, and this has been going on for 20 years now, looking at options to re-nourish Lido Beach, looking at sand sources. We spent several years, the Army Corps spent several years looking for other sand sources, modeling what would happen if you took some sand from Big Pass. The City Commission is strongly supportive of Siesta and navigation. They wanted to make sure that whatever is designed and goes forward will continue to allow for navigation, will not harm Siesta, and will provide protection for Lido. And so even after the Army Corps did their study, we had it peer reviewed. We actually started the evaluation based on the study that Sarasota County put together, and that study was peer reviewed. So there's been a lot of review and evaluation done before we got to this point.
Michael, I see you shaking your head there. Is your objection to the scientific results of the Army Corps of Engineers, or the decision here, because we saw Tom Barwin in the story say it's really not cost effective to import the sand from other locations?
It's about cost, and the first time I've actually heard the city admit to navigation. Okay, so when you look at what's going on here, Tom Barwin, I think he's probably regretting what he said about what's good for the environment now, and that's what these big developers do. Everything's good for the environment. So he's a master of distraction. He pitted neighbor against neighbor, commission board against commission board, when it's never been about the sand. That's the problem.
Well, help explain that, because obviously you have a beach here that is in critical need of being re-nourished. Is the issue of where the city is getting the sand from?
Well, that's the key, very good question, because there's two permits. They don't have a permit for Big Pass, and the FDE permit is still, they don't have the FDEP for a new pass. They still are waiting on the notice to proceed because they haven't finished an inlet management plan. So when you take out Ebshalls on say the southern Ebshall of New Pass, that has a big causes big problems for North Lido, right? And they don't take them right out. So that's one. But when you look at where the amount of sand that's needed, it's completely falsified.
Right, let me give Alex a chance to respond.
So we do have a permit for Big Pass.
No, you don't. You don't have the FDE approval for that and the notice to proceed.
You don't have the notice to proceed. They don't give you the notice to proceed until you're done.
What
with
about New Pass?
Drawings.
What about New Pass? New Pass is where the emergency
projects.
sand should come from, and it's being blocked and obstructed. The permit's been sitting on Tom Barwin's desk for 3 months now, incomplete.
There's 2 projects and 2 permits. There's the permit we share with Longboat for New Pass. We have that permit. Before,
you have the notice to proceed in your inlet management plan that was required.
The Florida Department of Environmental...
Hold on just 1 second. We've got to pay the bills. Obviously, we are just getting warmed up our conversation over the battle of dredging of Big Pass to re-nourish Lido Beach. We'll continue right after a quick break. Welcome back. We are talking about the ongoing battle over dredging Big Pass to re-nourish Lido Beach. And joining us for more are Michael Hardeness, a local business owner, and Alex Davis Shaw, the City of Sarasota engineer. I welcome you back, both of you. And obviously, this is a really emotional topic because people's livelihoods are on the line, and we love these beaches, and it's so important to our community. So the question that I guess Michael is putting up is, what is the real goal here? Is it to save the beach that is being endangered, or is, I guess Michael is saying that there are other things going on here in terms of a navigation channel?
So when in 1996, after Tropical Storm Josephine, when Lido Key was so devastated, the City Commission determined that they had to come up with a long-range comprehensive plan to protect the beach. That's where we are today. We went to the County Commission when they were reviewing their inlet management plan. And part of that plan was trying to figure out how to maintain navigation and what to do with the sand. When they looked at dredging the two inlets, Big Pass and New Pass, the city took that information and used that to work with the Army Corps to develop our plan. We committed to Sarasota County that as we did our project, we would make sure that we wouldn't change the morphology such that it would impact navigation and be detrimental to that, because Sarasota County and the boaters were very concerned that if we moved sand around, it would fill in the natural channel and they would have boating difficulties.
Michael, what would you like to see in terms of, obviously, you know, Lido Beach needs to be saved and there needs to be renourishment. What do you think the right answer is?
When I got involved in this, and I know the importance of Big Pass, it's one of 28 national estuaries that they look at to model in this country. That's how important this Big Pass is. With all the dead fish that we saw, and we got 30,000 tons off our beaches. It's, you know, we're Sarasota, whether we're on this side of the cut or not. And we got 30,000 pounds of dead fish and mammals and everything else off our beach. More important than ever that these fish have a home to come home to, so they can make more fish, all right? Without it, they're not going to procreate in the Gulf. So what I'd like to see, when I got involved back 2 or 3 years ago, I looked at, let's find other sources, other viable sources.
Which would be what?
Which would be Big Pass, trucking it in. They could go offshore and get it. All that sand could have already happened.
But so, some of those other choices there, trucking it in or going farther offshore, wouldn't that be cost just too expensive?
That's a lie by Tom Barwin, if I can be honest.
And it's not a
it's
lie.
It's $3.5 million to dredge New Pass. New Pass brings them back to their historical beach level.
Dredging New Pass does not get us to the
It's
historical beach level.
284,000 cubic yards. Yes, it does.
It's 185,000 cubic yards that we'll be putting on the project at this time, because that's how much sand is in
No.
it.
You want to build the beach up out another, 200 yards, and you need 900,000 cubic yards?
You're talking about the New Pass project or the Big Pass project?
The whole project.
So the
because you're trying to run it all under one and slide all the funds over to Big Pass.
There's two different permits and there's two different funding sources.
How come you're not getting the FDE permit completed for New Pass so Lido residents can have sand?
A reminder, a lot of people don't understand the acronyms and the technical jargon, but here, let me ask the question this way. What is your greatest concern about the current plan in terms of the dredging, in terms of what it could do to Siesta Beach? And then we'll give Alex a chance to respond.
My number one concern is the ecosystem, right? Big Pass is very, very important to Sarasota Bay. With all the development that the city's doing, it would turn into a cesspool without that filtration of Big Pass, right? So that's number one. When they took out their southern ebbshaw of New Pass, it eroded Lido at an alarming rate. So now they want to take out the entire ebbshaw, which is cut B. They want to do that first,
okay,
and give that to Lido.
All right, and now, Alex, how do you address that?
So part of the study evaluated the flushing of the bay to verify that with these cuts, it would still flush and we would still have that movement. It also evaluated the fact that...
What study? You don't have an environmental impact study.
The Army Corps did a study. They did an evaluation. They provided that to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, who determined that it was sufficient and they had enough information.
Did Sarasota County determine that an environmental impact study was efficient?
Let Alex finish her thought here.
They also looked at endangered and threatened sea life. They also looked at turtle nesting and bird habitat. And one of the critical things is right now we have no turtle or bird habitat, and so putting the sand back on the beach.
That's Tom Barwin's fault, because you could have already had sand last year.
We could not have already had more sand because first
he didn't finish his permit?
No, we have
He
the
didn't
permit.
file for funds since Hurricane Hermine?
We
Is that why?
filed for funds for Hermine. We have a
When?
commitment.
3 weeks ago?
We filed for funds
3
for
weeks ago.
Irma right after the storm, and we're still waiting for Irma. And part of the reason why.
Do you have an inlet management plan?
Mike, let me interject here, because in Adam's story here, you know, Tom said that if there is any negative environmental impact, the plan will stop and it will change. So the question is, if the city is committed to reversing, if there are any negative outcomes here, why not? Let's see where this goes.
You can't unbreak a plate, okay? They have $2.5 million in a mitigation account that won't even get them out the door. So let me ask you one question. If Sarasota County is asking for an environmental impact study, especially after all this death and destruction of our fishes, why are they refusing? One. Number two, why are they refusing to get an impact? They need a place to procreate, okay? They're all dead. We need to have
a place to procreate.
Now when you dig it out, a 2-mile long, 500-foot wide, 16 feet navigational channel, they don't have a place to, that's our grass flats. You lose 20% of your sand, it covers the grasses and they're dead.
They determined that there's plenty of seagrass in the area.
So why are you against an inlet management plan?
They determined that.
Why are you against an inlet management plan?
The Army Corps has.
Why are you against an inlet management plan?
Folks,
NEPA,
We're
National Environmental.
going to have to wrap up the discussion, so I guess.
Ask her why they're against an environmental impact study.
Alex, what is the one essential fact you want people to walk away from this conversation tonight with?
I think that they need to be aware that we have evaluated offshore sand sources. We've also looked at the price for trucking. There are no offshore sand sources. We looked at that. The sand that's offshore.
So if there is an offshore sand, no, they don't like the color. They don't like the color.
There's not one that has a sufficient quantity and
they
doesn't
already
have
do a joint plan through New Pass trucking it in.
And there aren't any locations that are.
You don't like the color of sand.
Michael,
we can't afford to go to Miami, and we can't afford to go to the Bahamas.
I know, you can't afford it, but you can afford to build $2 billion worth of real estate and pollute our waters.
It's better if we don't continue to grow the shoal, because as the shoal gets bigger, it's pushing the natural channel up against North Siesta.
No. The natural channel is healing. It's healing from when you guys developed Berg Key.
Reduce that and take the impact out of that.
They don't care enough to get an environmental impact study.
We have to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts when we return. Stay with us. And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. Obviously, this is an emotional issue on both sides, but Alex, again, what is the essential point that you want people to know about the city's plan in terms of the dredging?
So one thing I want everybody to understand is the city manager and the city commission has worked very hard to try to get sand on Lido Beach as quickly as possible. We do have a permit for New Pass, which we share with Longboat. The Department of Environmental Protection does not issue a notice to proceed, which allows you to begin construction until after you finalize the construction drawings and the specifications. You provide that to them, they evaluate that, and then they give you the notice to proceed. We have completed our drawings and our specifications, and we provided that to them last week, and we're expecting their review and to give us the okay very shortly.
And what's at stake here?
Turtle nesting habitat, bird nesting habitat, our infrastructure, people's homes, and their livelihood on Lido Key.
And Michael, what do you think is at stake here?
I want the Lido residents to get their emergency sand as quick as possible. Who's stalling that up is the city of Sarasota and Tom Barwin. He's a master of distraction. Look over here at Big Pass so you don't see the sand over here. That's number one. Number two, we would like an environmental impact study, which isn't too much to ask for. Siesta Key has never held up their sand. We have just asked for them to do a good cause. They ignore Sarasota County Commission when they ask for an environmental impact study. That's scary. These residents could have already had sand, and they haven't. And it's their own city that's holding it up, spending all this money on litigation instead of getting them sand. Okay, and it's our fishes that we need to really protect.
We have to leave this right here, and obviously this is something that's going to be going on for a considerable amount of time. I want to thank you for both for being here tonight. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of our viewers had to say about Friday's show. On the week in Washington, President Trump was in Tampa to show his support for Ron DeSantis' run for governor. The president continued his attacks on the media. His supporters were seen verbally attacking Jim Acosta of CNN at the rally, and we went to Facebook for your thoughts. Diana says, Eventually, he'll get a few reporters hurt or killed, and we'll get to pretend it's not something he encourages. To which Robin says, we, the people, should be able to trust the Fourth Estate to deliver unbiased, honest reporting. Too many news reports are filled with blatant errors and hyperbolic rhetoric. Blatant errors and hyperbolic rhetoric? Robin, you talking about the press or the president? If you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. We want to thank our guests for being here tonight. Michael Holderness, a local business owner, and Alex Davis Shaw, City of Sarasota's engineer, for joining us tonight.